What's up, duelists? MD here, and today, gonna kick off the brand new year of 2018 with a Dark Magician profile. Can't think of any other way I want to kick off this year. Then a profile of my mascot, and I gotta say, man, Dark Magician's gotten really good over the year. And this particular list I'm about to show you guys, I actually piloted in my locals and got a pretty strong second place with it, so very good deck. And now, thanks to all the reprints, especially the reprint of Apprentice Illusion, this deck is so affordable. Like, I'm so happy about that. Because it's probably one of the best budget decks you could get in the game right now. It's super, super good. Easy to play. Can definitely hold its own against any of the meta. And can just overwhelm your opponent if you get everything off right. So, I could continue bragging about the deck, or I could just show you why it's so good. Alright, so of course, we have 3 copies of Dark Magician. Everything we do is going to revolve around this guy right here. Just so many reprints and artworks of him. I just picked my favorite 3 of them. I do also like the structure deck version of him, but I don't know. Something about these 3 just scream put it in the deck. Especially this one. This is the original Legend of Blue Eyes Ultra Rare, which I've always wanted to add those in my deck. Alright, next up. 3 copies of Apprentice Illusion Magician. Now, originally this was a jump promo, which 2 of these here actually are the jump promos. But man, this was an expensive jump promo. I kid you not, this card was going for about $100 at one point. Just because it made Dark Magician so good, but seeing it was just a jump promo, so it wasn't the easiest thing to get. And this literally did for Dark Magician what Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon did for Blue Eyes. Like, it's an amazing card. You can special summon this card from your hand by discarding a card, any card you want, and if this card is normal special summon, you search your deck for a Dark Magician. So, already, not only does it special summon itself, but it searches on summon for a Dark Magician, which is really, really good. And during the battle phase, when one of your Dark Spellcasters attack, either from your hand or from the field, you can discard your Apprentice Illusion, and that Dark Spellcaster will gain 2,000 attack points. So, really, really good. It can help your Dark Magician overrun some really big boss monsters. And just overall, such a great card. I'm so happy we got the reprint of this as soon as we did in the Legendary Dragon decks. So, like I said, everything in this deck is super affordable now, and I love it. Alright. And our last 3 up here is going to be 3 copies of Magician's Rod. Probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to this deck, along with Apprentice Illusion. When you normal summon this card, you can search for any spell or trap that has Dark Magician in its text and add it to your hand. So this is your main normal summon / search of the deck. So, very, very powerful card. And also, it has a kind of a revival effect, but not exactly a revival effect. During your opponent's turn, if you activate a spell or trap card while this card is in your graveyard, you contribute a spellcaster monster and add that card to your hand. So, again, kind of a revival effect. It's more of a revival to hand and not just revival on the field. So, basically, you activate a spell or trap, you attribute a Dark Magician, you add this guy back to your hand to normal summon and search again next turn. So, you can just keep reusing him over and over and over again, and it's amazing. Alright, that does it for our 3 of monsters. And now we're going to go to our other monsters here. We have 2 copies of Magician of Dark Illusion. Now, he counts as Dark Magician as long as he's on the field. So he gets the protection of Eternal Soul. He can be used for Iatamias, all that good stuff. And he has 2 effects as well as that one. During your opponent's turn, if you activate a spell or trap card, you can special summon him from your hand after you resolve that spell or trap. So special summoning himself, really, really good. And if you activate a spell or trap card while this card is on your field, once while this card is on the field, you can special summon a Dark Magician from your graveyard. So you can only use, it's not once per turn, you can only use it once while he's on the field. But still, just by activating a spell or trap, we can revive a Dark Magician. Really, really good. And we have our one-ofs here. We have 1 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Now, I do run a mini Spellbook energy in this deck with basically the secrets and knowledge. And it's such an amazing, amazing combo. Like, every Dark Magician deck needs to be running these cards. I can tell you that right now. Just because it's so amazing. And of course, Maxi. Because Maxi, you have to run Maxi. Have to run Maxi. And that does it for our monsters. It's not exactly a high monster count in the deck. So everything here is mainly spells. So right here, we start off with 3 copies of Dark Magical Circle. It's a continuous spell and probably one of the best spells in the deck. When it's activated, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You could get out a Dark Magician or a spell or trap that has Dark Magician in its text added to your hand. And then the remaining cards you could put in any order you so choose. So not only does it help you add a card to your hand, it helps you set up draws that you want for next turn, which is completely amazing. And it does so much more than that. When a Dark Magician is normal or special summoned, once per turn you can target and banish any card your opponent controls on the field. So every turn, if you special summon a Dark Magician, as long as it's out, you can banish a card every single turn your opponent has until they have nothing whatsoever. Everything's banished. So very, very good there. And here is that spellbook engine I was telling you guys about. 2 copies of Spellbook of Secrets and 2 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge. Now, as far as the main deck goes, this right here is the only card that might be a little money, like a little bit of money to get, but it's so worth it. What Spellbook of Secrets allows you to do, you add a spellbook card from your deck to your hand. Now, notice how that said spellbook card and not spellbook spell card. And seeing as how this is indeed a spellbook card, you could play secrets, add him, normal summon, search off Spellbook of Knowledge, or normal summon him, search your Spellbook of Secrets, play Spellbook of Secrets, and search your Spellbook of Knowledge. So what it does a lot of deck thinning, and that's definitely a good thing. And Spellbook of Knowledge is probably one of the best draw cards in the game right now, at least in my personal opinion. You could send a spellcaster monster you control to the graveyard, or a spellbook card in your hand to the graveyard, and except for this one, obviously. And if you do, you draw 2 cards. You can only activate this once per turn. All the spellbook stuff you can only activate once per turn. Well, all the spellbook stuff we run in here, but still, you can do the combo I told you of with Spellbook Magician to thin your deck out, or normal summon Rod, get your search, and play Spellbook of Knowledge if it's already in your hand to tribute him and draw 2. So, just amazing, amazing. Or you could even tribute out the Dark Magician if you want to draw 2 because of all the ways we have to revive him immediately. So, like I said, probably one of the best draw cards in the game. And just an amazing card for Dark Magician. This is also another reason why I feel Dark Magician's got as powerful as because of this new spellbook card. So, as amazing as a draw card that is, it's not the only one we run. We are going to be running 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Now, I have spoken out against this card so much in this channel, so a lot of you might think I'm a hypocrite for playing this card. Well, it's affordable. It's really the only other draw that you could really balance in here without it ruining anything, because Pot of Duality isn't bad for this deck, even now, but especially with the fact that now we have Apprentice Illusion. If I have this in my hand and I see a Pot of Duality, I don't want to play the Pot of Duality. I want to play this card. So, I don't want to be in a position where I have to choose to either play Pot of Duality or play this. And not to mention, this was reprinted as a Mega 10 as a promo, so it's super easy to get. And it does draw 2, and you have ways to thin your deck out of stuff you need to add to your hand, and hopefully the 10 you banish are 10 cards you really aren't going to need to worry about. So yeah, go ahead in the comment section, call me a hypocrite. Say, no, you said that card was bad. Again, it's really the best option, I feel. If you still want to run Pot of Duality, go ahead. As I said, it's not a bad card in the deck. It's just, like I said, how I feel with Apprentice Illusion Magician now, that it can kind of slow you down a bit. And the deck's not exactly speedy as it is, so you don't want to slow this deck down any more than necessary. Alright, next for our spell cards here, we have 3 copies of Eye of Timaeus. Now, for those of you who don't know, there was kind of a tricky, very annoying rule with this card. Dark Magician is in the text of this card. However, you cannot search this card with Dark Magical Circle, Magician's Rod, or any of those cards whatsoever. And the reasoning behind that, trust me, I feel is really stupid, because it says Dark Magician Monster. That's their reason why you can't search this card. Personally, that is the dumbest reason I've ever heard, but it's Konami. That's what they decided to do, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, Itemize. Basically, you tribute one Dark Magician and you fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck that has Dark Magician as its material. So you could go into things like Dark Paladin, Amulet Dragon, or Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, which this is the one you're mostly going to go into. I'll explain this one a little bit more after when we get to the extra deck, but this is another card why Dark Magician is so good right now, because Dark Magician the Dragon Knight is just so amazing. So yeah, and I run 3 of these for that reason that you can't search it at all. So you want to see this card as soon as possible. You want to get out your Dark Magician the Dragon Knight as soon as possible. So that's why I run 3 over 2, because I know a lot of decks are only running 2. I feel that you have to run 3. Alright. Let's put those spells away. Alright, we're almost done with our spell counts here. Next up, we have 2 copies of Dark Magic Attack. Now, some decks only run 1 or don't run them at all, just put them in the side. Not a bad idea, but honestly, the reason I main this card right here is because for some reason I always face up against Pendulum Magicians. Like, Pendulum Magicians is like the deck I face more than anything. And if they don't play off their Pendulum Call right on time, then I could completely ruin their day with this card right here. Because it's basically Harpy's Feather Duster if you have Dark Magician out, so it completely wipes the back row. Not to mention, this is searchable by a lot of cards in this deck. So, it's a legal Harpy's Feather Duster for Dark Magician. Just any back row that you're worried about, just boom, say goodbye to all that. You don't gotta worry about that. Also have 1 copy of Dark Magic Inheritance. So, quick play spell, and you banish 2 spell cards from your graveyard, and you add 1 spell or trap card from your deck to your hand that has Dark Magician in its name. Well, Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, technically. Which is kind of cool for a Dark Magician Girl deck, but we're not really focusing on that there. And the fact that it's a quick play is really, really cool. And last up for our 1-ups here, we have 1 Illusion Magic. Honestly, I may cut this card, because with Apprentice Illusion Magician, I don't ever really play this card. It's just more pitch fodder than anything. So, what it does, you tribute a spellcaster, and you add 2 copies of Dark Magician from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So, it's kind of good for recycling, but again, I haven't, ever since I've added Apprentice Illusion Magician to this deck, I have never once used this card. So, like I said, I'm thinking about taking this card out. If you guys don't want to add this card in, don't whatsoever. It's not all needed if you have the 3 Apprentice Illusions. But that's just how I feel about it. Also, I have 1 Regeki and 1 Dark Hole because board wipe is very, very important. Even though we have Dark Magical Circle to banish, we can only use that once per turn. So it's only 1 card we're banishing per turn. And sometimes we need more than that. So field destruction is always good. And that does it for the spells. Now we're going to go into our trap cards, which there's quite a few more trap cards in here than you would think. So we have 3 copies of Eternal Soul, along with 3 copies of Magician Navigation. Easily the 2 most powerful traps in this deck. Eternal Soul, what it does is that all of your Dark Magicians in your monster show are completely unaffected by all of your opponent's card effects. So if they try to Regeki, Dark Hole, Banish, none of that will work whatsoever. Even cards that don't target and just say send to graveyard, like the Time Pendulum Graph card or Ningirsu, not gonna work. And it has a lot more other effects too than just that. You can special summon a Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard once per turn, and you could add a Dark Magic Attack from your deck to your hand. Also, you could add 1,000 Knives, but when is the last time you've seen anyone play 1,000 Knives? But it's just, it's neat. It's nifty that you could add 1,000 Knives as well. So it's kind of cool. Magician Navigation is next, and oh boy. This card is arguably as powerful as Eternal Soul. Because what it does is you get special summon Dark Magician from your hand, then you special summon any level 7 or lower Dark Spellcaster monster from your deck. So, it's 1 trap card that can get you out 2 monsters. That's really, really good. Right there in of itself. And if you control Dark Magician, except to turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can target a face-up spell or trap card your opponent controls, negate it for the rest of the turn. So, let's say they try to activate like Twin Twisters, Heavy Dust Storm, or anything that's not like a counter trap, just banish this from your graveyard, negate it. Just amazing. Incredible, because the right timing, Cosmic Cyclone, Twin Twister, or Heavy Storm Duster, if you don't have your Dark Magician Dragon Knight out, can be devastating. So, good to know that we have more ways to protect our stuff than just the Legendary Dragon. And last up for our traps here, we have 1 Solemn Strike, 1 Solemn Warning, and 1 copy of Skill Drain. Now, the Solemns are obvious. Negate summons by paying life points. And Skill Drain as well. You pay 1,000 life points, then you negate all face-up monsters' effects. Which, I mean, you don't play this as often as you would like, because you run much more monsters here with effects now. But there are times where you will need to play a Skill Drain, where the classic Eternal Soul, Dark Magician, Dark Magical Circle play will come in handy. Like, this right here alone, in the right matchup, can win you the game. Because you just negate all of your opponent's effects, keep summoning Dark Magicians off with Eternal Soul, and just keep banishing everything. Even the ones that would be protected aren't protected because of Skill Drain. So this was an old combo used back in the day before we had Apprentice Illusion Magician and before we had the new Fusion Monster. But it's still a very powerful combo, and that's why I still have it in the main deck. So, speaking of the main deck, that completes the main deck. And now let's go into our extra deck. Alright, so we have 1 copy of Ebon Illusion, 1 Ebon High Magician, got Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon, Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, number 11 Big Eye, Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger, Hierophant of Prophecy, Norito the Moral Leader, and we have 1 Phantom Knights of Breaksword. Now, other than Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, the only other card I would say you need is Ebon Illusion. Because what he does is, you could also, what's interesting about him is you could also make him by using a rank 6 spellcaster, which Norito is. So, that's pretty neat right there. And you detach 1 material, you can special summon a Dark Spellcast, well, technically any spellcaster normal monster, but it's going to be Dark Magician from your hand or deck. So, pretty good right there. And also, when a spellcaster type monster declares an attack, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, banish it. Now, the wording of this is very interesting because the ruling with this, if your opponent's normal spellcaster attacks and you have this on field, you can activate his effect to banish something from your opponent's side while they're attacking with their normal spellcaster. So in the mirror matchup, you really want this guy out, because they're not going to be able to attack with their Dark Magician without them having something banished. So, really, really amazing there. Yeah, it's this. I just want to say quickly, and these. These are the only 3 I would say you need. Everything else is completely optional, or you really don't even need to run at all. Because Dark Magician isn't really a deck that needs the extra deck all that much. And we also, alright, so, enough rambling about that. Let's go talking about the other extra deck monsters here. We have Ebon High Magician. I don't make him too often, but he's actually pretty neat. So, he's not generic like Ebon Illusion. You have to use the spellcasters, which that's okay. Everything we have is spellcasters. Sorry about that, got a hiccup there. As long as he has Xyz material, you can activate quick play spells and trap cards from your hand during your opponent's turn by detaching an Xyz material. So, if you're afraid of your opponent's back row and stuff getting blown up, just make Ebon High Magician and hold the quick play spells and traps in your hand. So that way, boom, you can just activate him from hand. You don't have to worry about any of the game blown up. And what's really cool, he has another effect to where when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by any means, you can special summon a Dark Spellcaster monster from your hand or deck, and you destroy 1 card on the field, which that's really cool because the destruction does not target. So, very, very powerful right there. Now, a lot of you might be wondering about the Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. Well, there's actually a neat combo with this that has won me some games, especially in that tournament I told you guys about. So, he is generic, 2 level 7s, and whenever a player's monster declares an attack, you can detach a material and negate that attack. And also, when this card is sent to the graveyard, doesn't matter how, it could be destruction, just sent there, tributed, whatever. Does not matter how this is sent to the graveyard. You can special summon an Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck, which that's going to be the Odd Eyes Vortex here, which I'll explain more in a bit. Alright, so we also have Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon here. Again, also generic, can't be destroyed by card effects while it has Xyz material. And also, whenever your opponent activates a card or effect or does anything whatsoever, you burn for 500 damage. So, the best play with this guy is to attack your opponent as much as possible. When they're less than 1,000 life points from losing, you just make Red Eyes Flare Metal on main phase 2 and pass it to them. If they do anything whatsoever, they're going to burn themselves to a game loss. And number 11, Big Eye, kind of a generic monster for level 7 decks. You detach material, then take control of one of your opponent's monsters. The only thing is you can't attack with this card for the rest of the turn when you activate that, but the monster's yours permanently, so very, very good there. Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger. Also another kind of a generic rank 7 to make a level 7 dex. Basically, he's just piercing damage for your opponent's defense position monsters, which this can come in handy sometimes. And also, Hierophant of Prophecy. Believe it or not, I actually threw this card in there just to make 15 card of an extra deck. Even though you don't need it, it's just something that kind of bugs me. But he's actually not too bad. You detach a material, then you blow up your opponent's back row equal to the number of spellbook spell cards in your graveyard. So you're going to have up to 4 of them in there. And so you could blow up 4 of your opponent's back row by just 1 detachment. So pretty cool. As for next up, Norito. Very, very good. You would make this with your Apprentice Illusion Magicians. And once per turn during either player's turn, you can negate a spell or trap card that your opponent plays by detaching. So, very, very good having spell, even more spell and trap negation. And as for the Phantom Knight's Break Sword, he's just there to make with our Magician Rods. And just to pop a card on the field. Not too bad. Just an extra way of spot removal. Alright, that does it for the Xyz. And now for our fusion monsters. I have here 2 copies of Dark Magician and Dragon Knight. Now, as I was saying, this card is a big reason why Dark Magician is so good right now. Because first off, his name becomes Dark Magician when he's on the field or in the graveyard. So what that means is that he is protected by Eternal Soul as he's on the field and can be summoned by Eternal Soul. So, let's say you make him here into your extra deck with Ayatamias. He gets protected. If by any reason he gets run over and sent to the graveyard, you can just, boom, use Eternal Soul to summon him back in the main monster zone. And since his name is Dark Magician, Dark Magical Circle will also banish when he is summoned. So, extremely powerful card there. And not to mention, he protects your spells and traps from being targeted and destroyed, which was one of the biggest problems Dark Magician had, was having the Eternal Soul destroyed, and all of your monsters are destroyed with Eternal Soul. That's actually something I forgot to mention, because that was like a big drawback for the deck for a while, is that all of your monsters became destroyed the moment this left the field. But now that we have Dark Magician Dragon Knights, you don't really have to worry about that too much anymore. Like, your opponent has to get through him first before they can deal with the Eternal Soul. And the fact that he's unaffected by everything, he's got 3,000 base attack. Like, this guy ain't easy to deal with. And he's unaffected by everything because of Eternal Soul. So, you have almost an invincible board with this guy here and Eternal Soul. So, it's really, really good. I don't know why I almost put that away. Alright, as for the other 2 fusion monsters we can make in a deck, have 1 copy of Dark Paladin and 1 copy of Amulet Dragon. Now, Amulet Dragon's mainly here just to overrun the big monsters, because when you summon him, you banish spell cards from both yours and your opponent's graveyard, and he permanently gains 100 attack for each one. So, could definitely turn into a huge beat stick. And also another effect that some people forget, including myself, is that when this card is destroyed, you can target a spellcaster in your graveyard and special summon it. So yeah, really, really good stuff there. So basically, it brings back your Dark Magician that you used to summon him. So very, very good. And Dark Paladin is mainly there because Dragon decks are still most certainly a thing. And especially if you go up against like Blue Eyes or Odd Eyes, his attack becomes ungodly. Because he gains 500 for each dragon on your opponent's side of the field and graveyard. So, oh my goodness. I have seen times where I face against a Blue Eyes online, and he went to almost 10,000 attack. Just insane of how high his attack can be in the right matchup. And not to mention the fact that you can negate spell effects by discarding a card from your hand is really, really good. I mean, it's not something you want to use too often because there's only a few times you could do it, but the fact that it's not once per turn and it's spell negation, that alone makes it amazing. So definitely great cards here to run. And last up for the fusions, we have Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, which I told you we could summon once the Odd Eyes Absolute goes to graveyard. And what he does is that when he's special summoned, you target one face-up attack position monster your opponent controls, and you bounce it back to their hand. And he has another effect of negation, but that only works in Pendulum decks, and when Pendulum cards in your extra deck. So we're not going to worry about that effect there. But basically, he's bounce and just another way to attack, and not to mention 25 attack, 3,000 defense makes him a pretty good wall to sit on too. And last but not least, we run one copy of Link Spider. Just because it's Link Spider, we can make it with Dark Magician. And just to have 6 monsters on field is always nice. Alright guys, that does it for my Dark Magician deck of 2018. Honestly, this deck is almost as full power as it could get, but it's Dark Magician. It's an iconic Yu-Gi monster that's never really going to die out, and I feel we'll always get a little bit more support here and there. Because, I mean, even Red Eyes is getting more support to this day. Blue Eyes is getting crazy support in that Kaiba legendary deck thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if more support came out for Dark Magician, making it even more powerful than it already is, which would be amazing. So, if you guys like this deck profile, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And this has been Magician's Descendant, and I'll catch you duelists later.